Welcome to Dialogue Editing for Motion Pictures. In the last video, we learned the advantages of copying the OMF, adding the picture editor's guide track to your session, eliminating dual mono regions, and marking scene boundaries to make for more efficient editing. In this video, you'll hear about the remaining steps you should take before beginning your dialogue edit.
Okay, we're getting there. We're almost through with the things you've got to do before you can actually start having fun. But one more thing that's quite important is dealing with your wild sound. Wild sound, what's that? When a sound recordist, location mixer, whatever you want to call, is on the set, we all understand that the sound team is recording the sync dialogue. So this means, the sound rolls, the camera rolls, there's a clapper of some sort, and people blah, 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 people act, and then cut, and that's a shot. Overwhelmingly, most of the sound recorded on a film is synchronous sound. However, there are many times that the sound recordist will decide, I've got to record some extra stuff. For example, you've got a long shot of two people naked in the rain, walking towards us, holding umbrellas. Okay? First of all, there's no place on their bodies to put a microphone because they're naked. You could bury one up in the umbrellas, but you're going to get this sound of the rain. So it's an impossible shot. They tried to record it, but it was just horrible sound. So as the sound man is listening to this going, this ain't working, he took a little note, says, got to do a wild recording. So when the two nudists finish doing their shots, he says, hey, come over here. And goes through the scene with these two a few times while they're still in the mood, while they still have the rhythm of the shot, and they record wild dialogue. So that maybe the dialogue editor can use this sound to replace the original horrible sound. Now, if it doesn't work, we can always do ADR. But ADR has its own sets of troubles and it's expensive, and so if you can get it as a wild line, great. Other things that a sound man might record for you would be wild sound effects. They probably don't affect us. We'll probably give these things to the effects department, but an example would be, you're doing a movie that one of the characters drives this exotic 1952 English motorcycle. Who knows what it is? And it has a really unique sound. And they rented it from England and brought it to wherever you're shooting, and it cost a fortune to get this motorcycle. So the sound man knows that somebody in the audio post team is going to need these sounds. So he'll spend a few hours covering the bike. Bike in, bike out, riding on bike, bike start, clutch, the whole shebang. And give that then to the sound team to use so they don't have to go out and re-record it and rent the bike again. Maybe there's a door that has a cool squeak. They'll record it because, it's a nice sound. And then, of course, there's room tone. The sound recordist is going to record room tone, which is something we're going to talk about in just a few minutes. Anyway, these wild recordings are not on separate tapes. They're just mixed in with all the other recordings. And it's nice to know before you start editing, what do I have? What kind of wild recordings are available to me? So what I do when I get started on a session, on a job, I go through all my sound reports, I find all the wild sound, and I put it all into one giant session. And from that session, I extract a text file that looks like this, that tells me, what do I have? What scenes do I have? What a description of what do I have? How big is it? And here's the reason. If I'm starting a scene, it's really handy to know before I enter that scene if I have wild sound coverage for the scene. Why? Because if wild sound was recorded for the scene, it means there's probably some sort of weird trouble that I need to be aware of so I can kind of figure out what's going on in the scene. Secondly, if I don't know if I have wild sound, I'll start my problem solving going down a certain road. But if I know, there's wild sound of him saying this and him saying this, I might take another path that's a better path. So what I do is I make a printout of this thing and I put it right next to my monitor so that before I start a scene, I just check, does this scene have wild sound? If it doesn't, I'll just work normally. But if it does have wild sound, before I start the scene, I'll actually listen to the wild sound, and maybe it will influence the editing path that I take. We've begun to look at what is the process of being a dialogue editor. So far, all we've really talked about is preparation. But preparation is everything, because if you're not organized, you can't cut. If you're not organized, your editing is spent not flowing and happening and grooving, but it's spent, oh my God, I forgot this, oh, I forgot this, and you can't work. So you've got to be organized. Now, next week, we're actually going to start doing something that's much more fun. We're going to start editing, but first, next time, we're going to begin talking about that magic, cryptic, nobody understands it, holy grail of dialogue editing, which is room tone. And by the end of next lesson, you will absolutely understand what is room tone.
In the last 6 videos, you've learned the role of dialogue editors, what materials you need to get from the picture department, what to do when you receive the OMF, and how to set up your session. By now, you should be well organized and ready to start dialogue editing. Future videos will take you step by step through the editing process. Check back soon for more episodes of Dialogue Editing for Motion Pictures, a guide to the invisible art. This series is produced by the Sela Yaniv School. Dialogue Editing for Motion Pictures, a guide to the invisible art, is available from Amazon and other online booksellers.